So, episode 12, what we're going to be talking about today is everything that comes with tech's neck or tech neck. Now, this is something that we see in our office. It's probably the majority of what we're seeing nowadays. With most everyone not doing as physical of a job. Now, I'm not saying nobody does a physical job. There's a lot of people that still have very physical jobs. But most people are working on computers nowadays because everything goes through a freaking computer. So, what we're seeing is the things that people are doing every day, those repetitive, I guess you could say, movements by sitting and looking at a computer or sitting looking at a phone is really starting to affect people. And really, I think the biggest thing is, and why it's becoming so prevalent now is because earlier on, it just takes time for things to develop. And so as they go on and we do things more years and more years and more years, then we start seeing how those actions actually affect us. So I'm going to pass it over to Dr. Agan and let him explain a little bit of what text neck is and how we're seeing it in our office.
It is something that is probably the most common micro trauma injury that we see in probably ages mid-30s to upper teens.
Yep.
If you think about it, like going back to what you were saying with technology, what a beautiful thing. And it's moving at a rapid rate right now. We need to keep in mind that the body wasn't designed to withstand so much technology. So anything in moderation. So, I mean, you think the common, the Nokias came out, 20 years ago, 01, 02. So we're looking at over 20 years now of that starting to become a problem. So we're aware of it now. We're seeing it now in the office. We're seeing degenerative changes, which is a breakdown of arthritis in patients in their mid-20s with no history of car accidents or trauma. So the 7 cervical vertebrae in the neck are designed to bend and move together, allow us to turn our head, bend down, look down. So what's the common position you see somebody when they're looking at their phone is they're looking straight down, which is hinging the joints of the spine, particularly around C5, C6, about 3/4 of the way down the neck, which also branches into the top of the shoulders. So you're hinging that joint and you're just every day after day for hours on end. And even if you're working in a computer setting, that's adding even more stress to the spine, which is wearing down that joint, altering the function of it, which is straightening the curve. And then you have muscle spasms and all the tissues around it adapting to the repetitive stressors. So common symptoms that we see are stiffness in the neck, get better throughout the day, and also the urge to want to pop or crack your neck, which is what we talked about in the last episode. So we never want the pain to start going down the arm. If it's doing that, a lot of the times it's a little too late with compression of that brachial plexus, that branch of nerves that comes out of the base of the neck there.
Yeah. And so a lot of that, when it comes to that pain down your arms, it's also because of those rounded shoulders as well. So we talk about a little bit about the neck, but also because of the way we sit and we slouch. And like I said, if you watched last episode, we have to work on this every day as well. I mean, our bodies want to naturally go into this kind of lazy, relaxed position. But the only problem is over time, well, that really starts to wreak havoc on you. So like Dr. Agan was talking about with your head being down for such a long time, our neck is supposed to have a forward facing curve. So the back parts of our necks are supposed to sit on the Z joints. The Z joints do not have any disc in between them. That biologically, that is the way that our neck wants to be. And just to exaggerate it, it's kind of like if your neck was just like that. But really, it's supposed to have a forward facing curve. It sits over top of our bodies nice and neat, and we're good. Our bodies really weren't made to have our necks down that far for that long. So what's ended up happening is the compression between each vertebrae and the disc in between it, those discs just weren't meant to have that much pressure on them. And what we're seeing, because we take x-rays on anybody that's 25 and older, because we got to see what that spine looks like before we adjust it, we're starting to see some of the wear and tear of what's happening when someone's sitting at the computer. And Dr. Agan can elaborate a little bit more on what we're seeing on those x-rays that we really didn't see before.
Yeah, and it goes back to the simple law of cause and effect. Every cause is going to issue an effect, good or bad. Anything repetitive is going to have an outcome that might not be in your favor if it's something repetitive that's negative for yourself. So the Z joints that you were talking about, those are where the synovial fluid is lining, which is actually creating the pop or crack noise. So that area of the spine is repetitively getting stressed, which is causing actually friction along the joints. And just like anything repetitive, like we talked about, so if you think about a callus on your hand, what happens if you play the guitar or you go to the gym regularly and you create that friction? Well, the blister goes away, then it turns into hardened skin. So
Mhm.
the body naturally does that so that the skin doesn't break open, you get infection. So if we look at that internally inside the spine, physiologically, that is causing repetitive stress, which is causing the joint to actually wear out and weaken. And so
Mhm.
then this is where the self-popping and self-cracking comes into play, because that joint that's injured, the bones above and below that are moving too easy. And so that pressure release that we're seeing with the self-cracking or the homemade crack videos is a release of pressure, but not specifically to the area that's causing the stress and the
And
injury.
it gives you a temporary relief. It gives you just a little bit just because something's moving. But when you're popping those areas, if there is a real trouble area, it's not going to move as easy as those other ones are. You're not getting that one to move.
Heck no. There's so much tissues and muscles and structures around that are kind of splinting, protecting it from moving any worse than it is already.
Yeah, and so we talked a little bit about tech neck and how it affects the joints and the disc, but also there's one more component, and it comes down to the muscles and how those react to that forward facing curve and it straightening out. So basically, what we're seeing is that when their necks start to straighten out, the muscles that hook from the base of your skull, and you got a ton of muscles, full list of them that hook on from the base of your skull, and some of them even go down to the middle of your back, your trap muscles. All people know about those. So when you lose that forward facing curve and that neck starts to fall forward, do you think your muscles actually lengthen out? No, they stay the same shape and same size, but now in a neutral position, they are over elongated. So,
Mm-hmm.
kind of like I just told a patient that was probably yesterday, we like to have people at neutral, and that's the big word for that is homeostasis. You want everything to biomechanically be good, your organs, everything to be at homeostasis, ready to do what you got to do. But when you start losing that curve because of looking at your phone or looking at the computers too long, what ends up happening is your new neutral is actually a little bit in the red now.
Mm-hmm.
So when you start off the day, your muscles are already too elongated. So when you go do those actions, it starts hurting more and more and more because now you start off the day and your neck is already a little bit in a crisis mode. And as you let that go, it continues to get worse and worse and worse. And that's why we see people, they start trickling in after it's been going on for a few
Mm-hmm.
months.
Yeah, and the body only knows what you tell it to do. So over time, you know, it becomes the norm. And so those muscles are just in constant spasm. So it's always what came first, the chicken or the egg? Did the muscle tightness cause the neck pain? Or was the nerves that go to the muscles being impinged and constantly stressed, which is firing to the muscles, telling them to guard to protect that joint from being injured even more? And that's the common thing that I see, because we'll put a patient on a care plan, start adjusting them, and over time, usually about 2 to 3 weeks in, you'll see that muscle tone start to go down.
Mm-hmm.
And that's without any type of muscle work on the patient. Now, then, like you mentioned before, with the muscle imbalances, the most common thing that I see, and you can look it up, it's called upper cross syndrome. It sounds a lot worse than it is, where you have tight pec muscles pulling the shoulders forward. You have weak neck flexors and weak lower trap. So a lot of patients and a lot of the population doesn't even know your trap muscle actually goes down to T12, which is like your mid lower back.
Mm-hmm.
Everybody kind of focuses on the upper yoke up there, but it really, most of the time too, if you can imagine, it's a balance system. So if the lower traps aren't firing, the upper traps are going to be extra fired up to protect. Again, the body's always, it's pretty fascinating to me how the body is always trying to compensate to protect you.
Yep.
It's
It's trying to
always
figure
there.
it out for us.
It is. And it's, like you talked about, like with innate intelligence and the body's natural ability to try to go back to normal. Well, then if the new normal is repetitive stress, looking down at my phone, or the postural changes, I'm no time teller or fortune seeker, or look into the
Fortune
future.
teller.
Fortune teller, time teller. But I'm telling you, dude, in 20 years, you're going to see different shaped humans because of the constant repetitive stress. You're seeing 2 year olds looking down at iPads.
Yeah.
I mean, we didn't have that as much with looking down that, so we're starting to see it now. And it's so important that everybody's aware of this. It is, you are causing stress to your body when you look down, and technology, as beautiful as it is and as amazing as it is, we weren't designed to withstand it for long periods of time, period.
Yep. Yep. Absolutely. So, what are some of the things that, well, we can start off with kids. So, what are some of the things that you would suggest for kids or for parents to help their kids out with when it comes to, combating this text neck or tech neck?
It's, I think it's pretty brilliant that kids have the access to some of the stuff. If you can filter it, block out certain sites, especially with YouTube, kids can learn things. They can educate themselves. They can learn how to do so many amazing things, but it's got to be in moderation, because kids need to be kids. They need to get outside. They need to get it dirty. They need to fall down. They need to, figure out the old school way of living, but then have that screen time to a minimum.
Yeah.
Make it no more than an hour a day. And the problem is these kids are getting Chromebooks starting in elementary school, so they're already getting programmed into that postural permanent change of like a desk setting, and it's got to be done in moderation. They need to be getting out during the middle of the day at school, middle school, even into high school. These kids need to get out and move between classes. They can't be in there all day repetitively looking down.
Yeah, and I'll kind of elaborate a little bit more on the adults. So with the adults, if you have a computer job, the best thing that you can do is bring that computer monitor up to eye level. So I always tell people, it's because a lot of times people will bring it and they'll be slightly looking down and they don't think, or they'll slightly looking up. That'll be fine for a little bit, but then it's going to be bad. So basically, when you show up at your desk, you really want to just kind of shake it out, and wherever your head ends up where it's comfortable, that's exactly, you want to be looking at the middle of that screen, because that is where your body wants to be. Any downward or upward is going to cause stress. Now, like we were saying, if you're only doing it an hour a day, probably not going to have the issues. It's this is more for the people who are 6, 7, 8 hours a day, and that continue of stress is just killing their neck. So bring that thing up. I got a stand up desk, love a stand up desk. I'm not a big proponent, and I'll let you kind of elaborate. I think a little bit of both, standing and sitting, is best. We have people that come in and they stand all day, they hurt. We have people that come in, they sit all day, they hurt. I think a good balance of doing both and using all the different muscles is the best route for people.
Yeah, and I agree with you on that. I also feel that sitting should be the minimum, meaning, sit down and take a break, because really this goes back in time, dude. The human body was not designed to sit and just be inert. You need to, circulation is huge too. So you're seeing a lot of that. Imagine when you're moving and walking, you're pumping blood, you're pumping your lymphatic system, you're getting things moving. So if you're just sitting still, everything becomes sedentary. Motion is life. I almost say get rid of the chairs completely. It might be a
Hmm.
little bold right now, but I know that's what we do. We don't have chairs for the staff, even, because we don't believe in it, and they're conditioned now. It
Hmm.
takes time. Your feet will get a little sore there for a while. You got to have a good stable insole. You have to, but just movement and taking breaks. Set a timer on your watch, on your phone. Every 30 to 40 minutes, you should be getting up and moving around, because that's going to get your brain pumping too. Get the blood flow to the brain, make you a little more sharp. But yeah, man, I mean, technology is literally changing how human beings are developing.
Yep,
And
absolutely.
then the other thing is too, we're seeing 40 and 50-year-olds that don't have the reversal of the curve like a mid-20s
Hmm.
patient does. That's how we know things are changing.
Yeah.
So chiropractic is a necessity, but again, knowing exactly which bone to move, how often to move it, and maintaining the health of the spine is so vitally important.
Yeah, and just to kind of, we've talked about this a lot, but just to kind of reiterate it and really break it down to the, what would you say, the nuts and bolts of it, or
Sure.
whatever. Really, it comes down to the pain, because nobody likes pain, And we're seeing a lot of neck pain, a lot of mid back pain, and then also those pesky headaches that people are getting at the base of their skulls. And then the progression of it is having a little bit of numbness and tingling down your arms. We don't ever want it to get there. So those are the things that we're seeing. But and those are short term things. But long term things, what we're seeing is the breakdown of those joints, premature arthritis, osteoarthritis within the neck, disc that are slimming down way before they should. So that's why we're so passionate about this. We are totally here for everyone when it comes to the present, but we really focus on that longevity because we know that if we can improve the function of that neck, it will decrease the progression of that. So, A, pain, and then B, that body's starting to break down because of the position that we're putting ourselves in. And we're just seeing it too much. And it's unfortunate because it really is. And I'm going to ask Dr. Agan kind of elaborate on what we do to help out patients with it. But it's unfortunate that we see all these people that are having it, and some of them a little too far gone to get them all the way back to 100%. We can always help them a certain percentage, but it's sad that we couldn't get to them a little bit earlier. So if you could explain a little bit, what do we do, and then what changes would you look to see at a chiropractor if you came in for something like this?
First of all, if you really, even just holding an adult human head, dead weight, it's 10 pounds.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't even think we appreciate it until we sprain or injure our neck, how hard it is to hold up our head. I mean, your body is balancing that sucker out. So if you're, any translation or you're dipping down or bending forward, heck, I mean, you're putting an extra 10, 20, 30 pounds on that area of the spine, which then that's why the muscles are guarding to protect the sucker.
Mm-hmm.
So when we take a patient in, obviously we're going to take a detailed history, see how long it's been there, if they've ever went anywhere to try to get it corrected. And then we take our time to really palpate and feel around. And a lot of times it's a very common thing with that area. It's muscle spasms. A lot of the times I'm seeing it's that pain that goes in between the shoulder blades that just feels like something that needs to be rubbed out. The thing is, it's coming from that dorsal scapular nerve out of C5, C6 running down into the shoulder blade, referring the pain. So you could rub it until the cows come home. It's not going to go away because the cause is coming from the joints of your cervical spine.
Mm-hmm.
So when we can assess that, and at this point, I'm getting to where it used to be around 25 is where I demanded it. I'm getting close to 18 because if you look at these 15, 16-year-olds, they're looking not only down, they're looking completely over it. Yeah, completely zoned out for hours on end. And then you're seeing some serious postural changes. You're seeing, and we'll elaborate on that in future videos, you're seeing a hump in the upper back.
The dreaded hump.
The dreaded hump that nobody wants,
yep.
But it's coming if we don't do something about it. And, assessing the joint, a lot of what chiropractors, a philosophy-based chiropractor is going to address lack of function. So if we can improve function in the spine and how it moves, we improve function in the body and how it heals. So restoring the proper motion into those joints, and we know this by taking the x-ray. We know exactly which way that joint goes. We're not guessing on it. It's called a line of drive. We address that. We improve the function, restore motion. The spine over time becomes more resilient. And we can't say this enough. The area that you're feeling the aches and pains is weakened. You could go to the gym every day, but if you're not being assessed properly, that area has weakened over time. And then restoring motion allows the body to do what it's designed to do.
Yep, absolutely. So we've talked a lot about the tech neck and how it manifests and what it looks like. And you also mentioned that a lot of people and a lot of patients, they feel the urge to self-crack their neck. So what is it that's making them feel that way?
A lot of the postural changes that are happening are causing stress on the spinal joints. So I feel it's only natural. It's just like a thorn in your side or a thorn in your back. You're what is this causing this pain? I'm going to pull it out. Mm-hmm. Most of the times that's becoming a common thing that we see in the office because it's just irritated. And again, we can't reinforce this enough. The area that you're cracking or self-cracking is not the area that needs addressed properly because it wouldn't move that easy. The bones above and below are hypermobile. They're moving too much, and then the area that's locked up isn't moving enough. So a lot of times you're putting the motion into the wrong side and you're doing it incorrectly, which is going to cause the instability.
Mhm.
Those joints have to move a specific way. So I really feel it tends to be more of a habit that is formed over time. You might have had that temporary relief the first time you self-cracked yourself, but I'm hearing this very, very often in the office that I went to do that and it helped for a little bit, but then I got a headache.
Yep.
Or it helped temporarily, but then after that it got worse. And one of the coolest things that I've noticed over time in practice is patients that are open and honest about self-cracking themselves. We have that honest conversation. I educate them on their x-rays and why it's so important not to do that. We restore the motion into those joints. They, majority of the times they report back, I went to go do that and it wouldn't do anything. I don't pop as easy as I used to. And I say, that's because you've built resiliency by showing up,
Yeah.
and your spine's gotten stronger. So it's a habit that needs to be broken.
Yeah, absolutely. And when people, so with this, and just kind of elaborate more on how we treat it, we've helped a lot of patients with this. You know, what we're focusing on is, like Dr. Agan was talking about earlier, getting those muscles to calm down, start getting that neck to return a little bit more to that normal curve that it had before. And I've done a ton of before and after photos and seen a ton of necks that have restored some of that curve. Now, expectation wise, did it go back to 100% in 3-4 months? No, it didn't. But any millimeter of difference of bringing that thing back takes a ton of pressure off of those muscles. So we do have a lot. We work with a lot of these patients, and really it's a great thing for us because it's right up our alley when it comes to working with the biomechanics of the spine.
100%. And, you know, I was a personal trainer before chiropractic school, and I'd like to I incorporate some exercises you can do to, you know, an adjustment is just one big part of what you need to do. Going to the gym, exercising is very important. It doesn't always have to be in a gym. It can be something you can do at home, but there's specific muscles you have to target, postural muscles that need to be fired all day long. And let's break down a little physiology real quick without getting too crazy.
Hey.
You know, a couple types of muscle fibers. So there's the fast twitch muscles that we use for explosiveness or to run away from something that's chasing us.
Sympathetic.
That's the sympathetic nervous system.
Hey.
And that's the quick fast twitch muscles, the explosive runners, the 100-yard dash, so to speak. And so those do not require oxygen. Aerobic fibers, those are called anaerobic fibers. Aerobic fibers require oxygen. Postural muscles are aerobic fibers. We got to work on breathing exercises too. That's why yoga is fantastic for postural muscles and the spine, because it's building stability, requiring oxygen to get delivered to the tissues. And then your body will start to adapt to that. Yoga is a great practice, but we can't say it enough. Strength and resiliency is the key to longevity and living a great life and feeling good in your body. Motion is life. We see all these old timers that come in regularly, go to the golf course twice a week. Fantastic shape.
And drink some water.
Drink some dang water.
Drink some water. That is the easiest thing, that when people come in and I'll ask them, wait, have you been drinking some water? No, I haven't. Water is imperative for those muscles in your joints. You got to have it. It'll make such a huge difference. You don't even, a lot of people that come in here, if they can fix the water issue, we wouldn't even have them see them as much.
Dude, I mean, 100% hydration. A lot of the headaches that we're seeing, that's usually the first question I'll ask is how much water have we drank today? Now, the thing that's hard is the quality of water is important, but regardless of
Another
that
episode.
it's better than anything diet or with chemicals and crap in it. So if you have questions on how much to drink of water, not sure how, well, watch your dog, because that's exactly innately how you should drink water. They just chug it all at once. They don't really sip.
Yeah.
We're humans really the only ones that sip.
We like to, what's the new cups that everybody's using now? The big Stanleys. We like to carry our Stanley around and sip on our water.
And, you know, I think that's a good way for people to drink water if it's just in front of them.
Yeah.
It's just there, you know, a nervous habit. Just keep drinking the water. I mean,
better than nothing.
Here's another fact. You drink, you know, plenty of water, take your body weight, divide that by 2. That's minimum. You start drinking more water, you're going to have to get up and go to the bathroom more often, which is going to increase your circulation, get you moving. So it's a twofold there. but very important. Text neck and drinking water, man.
Nice nugget. Nice nugget. All right, guys. I think that's all we got for today. That was awesome, dude.
Yeah, that was good. Solid.
Comes to the ending question. Who is your favorite player with the number 12?
Mm.
You know, and here I am again, blanking up. I only got one.
Rodgers.
I was talking TB.
Who?
Tommy.
Tom Brady.
Who is number 12 in the MLB?
I don't see that being a baseball. Don't really have many number 12s.
I'm having a hard time thinking of it.
Was there a Yankee that was number 12? Because they got about
sure.
everybody.
Yeah, well, they're all retired.
Lou Brock was 10, right? He's one we forgot about.
I think so. Yeah. So we definitely got Aaron Rodgers and we got Tom Brady. Those are the two put it on the tee, hit a home run.
Quarterback for the Cowboys in like the 70s.
What was his name? Staubach?
Roger Staubach.
Roger Staubach? Oh, boy. Was Elway 12?
Elway was 7.
Oh, Elway was 7?
Oh, Rich Gannon. Richie G.
Oh, Richie G.
I wonder what he's up to these days.
Hey, shout out Richie G.
Richie G, baby.
All right, guys. So, as always, if you got a number 12 that we missed, which I'm sure, and we always miss a bunch of them, put it down there in the comments. Make us look bad. You can talk a little crap on us. It's okay. As always, if you're listening on Apple Podcasts or on our website, be sure to check out our YouTubes because we're putting a lot of short form videos on there. You can watch us talk. And as always, subscribe, follow us, like us. It really helps us out, pushes our content out there so everybody can hear it. So, well, that's it, guys. We appreciate it.
Don't forget, self-crack is whack.
See ya.